Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Wiki Read. I do want to first off apologize for my previous video, which was the article on Goosebumps Stay Out of the Basement, which was the second episode in the series. I'm sorry, book in the series. And I do want to apologize because there were some serious audio related issues with the last one. I did not realize the way that this microphone worked. I am currently recording this episode on the tablet. However, I do switch between tablet, cell phone, and computer. It just depends on what's more convenient for me at the time. But we'll go ahead and start today's article. Also, note that I try and talk as loud as possible. So I am very apologetic if the audio does tend to fluctuate, but I will be more conscious minded now of the microphone. All right, first off, the developer is From Software. The publisher is SCE Japan Studio. Okay, and distributors Sony Computer Entertainment, of course. Directors Hidetaka Miyazaki. Producers Masaki Yamigawa, Teruyuki Toriyama. Designer Kazuhara Hamatani. Composers Ryan Amon, Tsukasa Saito, Michael Wanmacher, Yuka Kitamura, Chris Valesco, Nobuyoshi Suzuki. Platform PlayStation 4. Release dates NA March 24th, UE March 25th, AUS March 25th, Japan March 22nd, United Kingdom March 27th. Sorry, sometimes I read exactly what I'm reading instead of just saying what it actually is, so I do apologize for that as well. This is the apology article. Maybe I'll do that one sometime. Genre, action role-playing. Mode, single player and multiplayer, of course. Distribution, Blu-ray disc, and download. Bloodborne is a 2015 action role-playing video game directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki, developed by From Software, and published by Sony Computer Entertainment for the PlayStation 4. It was released worldwide in March 2015 to critical acclaim, which is basically what I just said. This might end up being a very long episode, just letting you guys know. So strap your seatbelts on and get ready for some Bloodborne. Bloodborne features action role-playing elements similar to those found in director Miyazaki's other games, Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Players can return to a safe zone known as the Hunter's Dream from lanterns spread throughout the world. Doing so replenishes health but repopulates monsters in the game. Combat is fast-paced and requires an offensive approach in order for players to combat dense hordes of enemies. The player character is agile and is able to perform sweeping dashes around enemies while locked on. The new risk versus reward style of gameplay is emphasized through Bloodborne's health regain system, which allows the player to, within a small window of time, recover portions of lost health by striking back at the player's attacker. Most melee weapons can transform into two alternate states. Each state encourages a different approach to combat. The Saw Cleaver, for example, in its initial state, can be used to quickly dispatch enemies in cramped areas. But when transformed into its secondary state, it becomes an extended blade more suited for crowd control. The player can also wield a firearm in their left hand that can be used to stun enemies, which can then be followed up with a critical attack from the player's melee weapon. Or melee, however you prefer to pronounce that. Similar to Dark Souls, enemies drop experience points in the form of blood echoes instead of souls this time around. Should the player die, their blood echoes will be lost at the location of their death. If they are able to reach that point again, they can regain them. However, should the player die a second time on their way to retrieve their lost blood echoes, they will forever be lost. Also, blood echoes may be captured by an opponent, typically identified by glowing purple eyes. Defeating this opponent will return lost blood echoes. Enemies will also drop blood vials, used as healing potions, and quicksilver bullets. Generic ammunition for ranged weaponry. Players can also sacrifice health to create blood bullets for ranged weaponry. Multiplayer is present as well. By expending a consumable item, players can summon other players to help with boss battles or large groups of enemies. This also leaves the player vulnerable to invasions, in which another player may enter the victim's game world and attempt to kill them. Plot. The game takes place in a decrepit Gothic city called Yarnum, which is rumored to house a potent medical remedy. Over the years, many travelers journey to the city seeking the remedy to cure their afflictions. The player takes the role of one of these travelers. Upon arriving in the city, however, it is discovered that the city is plagued with an endemic illness that has transformed most of its citizens into bestial creatures. The player must navigate through the streets of Yarnum and overcome its violently deranged inhabitants and horrifying monsters in order to survive. Shortly after their arrival to Yarnum, the player encounters a spectral realm called the Hunter's Dream, which acts as both a sanctuary and workshop. The player then encounters two entities: Germain, an elderly wheelchair-bound man who provides advice to hunters like the player, and the doll, a living life-size doll that assists the player in leveling up, who does not look like a doll at all, other than her clothing, by the way. Germain informs the player that in order to obtain the cure they seek, they must hunt down the various monsters plaguing Yarnum. As the player delves deeper into Yarnum, they begin to learn its various dark secrets, as well as the origin of the plague that is destroying it. Long ago, the residents of Yarnum began worshipping ancient Eldritch beings called Great Ones. The Great Ones provided the miracle remedies Yarnum was famous for, which are also the source of the plague. The plague was spread in Yarnum by the Great Ones in order to foster the growth of an infant Great One, called the Moon Presence. Eventually, the player manages to obtain the remedy they are seeking. Germain then offers to free the player from the nightmare and return them to the waking world. At this point, three different endings are possible depending on the player's actions. Choosing to accept Germain's offers unlocks the Yarnum Sunrise ending. Germain uses his scythe to behead the player, who then awakens in the Yarnum as the sun rises. The Hunter's Dream, the doll bids the player farewell. Choosing to refuse Germain's offer unlocks the Honoring Wishes end. Angered, Germain initiates battle with the player. After Germain is defeated, the Moon Presence arrives and devours the player. Sometime later, the doll is seen pushing the player, now sitting on Germain's wheelchair, back to the mansion in the Hunter's Dream. The doll remarks that a new hunt will begin, signifying that the player has taken Germain's place in guiding other hunters. If the player consumes 3 pieces of an umbilical cord and refuses Germain's offer, the childhood's beginning ending is unlocked. After Germain is defeated, the Moon Presence arrives to devour the player, but the player resists. The Moon Presence then initiates a battle against the player. Upon defeating the Moon Presence, the player is transformed into an infant Great One, destined to replace the Moon Presence. Well, that is about all I have time for today, guys. I do want to thank you for tuning into this article. Lastly, I will just read off some scores. They are very high, by the way. Game rankings, 92%, Metacritic, 93 out of 100, Destructoid, 9 out of 10, and everything else that follows is a 9.5, 9, 4.5 out of 5, and so on and so forth. So it received very high acclaim, for sure. If you guys like this article, go ahead and check it out for yourselves. There is extra content that I did not go over here due to a lack of time, but I did go over the basic meat of the pie here, of the meat pie. If you guys like this article, rate, comment, subscribe, whatever you feel like doing. Add a comment down below, or go ahead and, check out some previous articles if you want that I have posted on YouTube. It's just kind of a way for you guys to just sit in and listen, if you're out on the streets walking around, running, or, you're on your way to work, or you basically don't want to read the article yourself, so I read the article for you. And if you have any suggestions, let me know, and I will read those articles as well, as long as they're PG-13 or appropriate. You get the gist of it. And I will see you guys next time for Wiki Read.